Hello everybody, and welcome back to Pravus Gaming and more Banished in New Cardiff, playing with the Colonial Charter mod pack. And apparently, this is not a bug. I've been doing a little bit of digging on this, got some help from the developers' forums, and I appreciate the bit on that. But apparently, and I've never seen this before, couples, at least in the Colonial Charter mod pack, if not the base game, can split up in order to fill up a void house if it will make them more efficient in their occupation. So in this case, Chauncey has left his wife, Luliette, so that he can be closer to his job as a fisherman right here on the fishing dock. And we've talked about this before and how they'll automatically recalculate in order to take the jobs that are closest to them. Okay, so he left so he could be here because there was an open house, and Luliette remained behind because she's the blacksmith and she wants to be as close as possible. I have never noticed that before. I don't know if it's a change in the vanilla game. I mean, I've done over like 40 to 50 hours of vanilla Banished. I've never seen that before. Maybe it's a change to the base game, or maybe it's unique to the Colonial Charter mod pack. I'm not entirely sure. I do know that it's a bit confusing how that works, but apparently it's not a bug. And also, allegedly, I can't prove this, but allegedly Chauncey and Luliette are still able to have children. Even though they're in separate houses, they're still a family unit. They can still do their thing. In theory. So the issue I have right now really is that my adult-to-housing ratio is off. I have too many houses, and the game is automatically trying to fill in the void of those houses with whoever makes the most sense, whoever's closest to it. Supposedly, that's basically what's going on. Now, I built this many houses in part because I kind of wanted to test this and find out how big of a bug this was. If I want to fix it, what I can easily enough do is just remove the structures. It's going to say these people are homeless. But instead, what's going to happen is they're going to recalculate in just a second. There they go. They're not homeless anymore. And now they're returning to their original families. I'm sorry, it wasn't Chauncey and Luliette. It was Paul and Luliette. Paul is back in his original house with his child, with his wife. Right where he's supposed to be. The family units are preserved, and people move right back into their houses. So I built too many houses, in part because I wanted to test this stuff out. That's the problem. If I got rid of these, it fixes the problem. But if these couples are still married and able to have children, then what I've actually done is I've created more space for more children if I want. I don't want, but we have that option. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's kind of confusing. What's good is that, in theory, if I reclaim this house right now, nobody lives in it, and if there is a laborer who does not have a house, an adult who is not living out on his own, he will get priority, in theory. Now, I'm willing to bet that this house might recalculate in a minute and split a family up again. There we go. Paul's back to being over here. Now, this doesn't make sense to me a little bit because I'm like, well, why? Right? Paul, as the tailor, is closer to his job living with his wife, Luliette. It really seems to be in part that the game wants to fill the void of those houses. I don't think that should be a top priority. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. It's confusing. I don't like it. But oh well. If we want to fix it, all we have to do is dismantle these houses, people will go back to their original families, and we only build a house when there are at least 2 adults available. 1 man, 1 woman. In theory, that's how it will work. So yeah, I don't know. I've never seen that happen before, ever, but apparently it's a thing. So okay. In the meantime, though, let's go ahead and start gathering up a little bit more wild food, simply because, despite my best efforts, we are having a little bit of trouble on that front. We got 4 laborers. We need to get at least a couple of builders just to kind of dismantle these buildings. Now, we are wasting some resources by dismantling these, but I don't want to mess with my adults ratio in their housing and stuff. In theory, it shouldn't matter that I have these, but you know, I don't want to have too many children. If we do, then we're not going to have enough food to provide for them, and we can go into a death spiral. So I would rather have control over the houses, control over the population, and make sure that one family doesn't have, like, 6 children because they're divided up into 2 houses. You know? Maybe you don't know. I don't know. It is confusing. I'm right there with you. But we should be able to see, once we get some new adults, I'll rebuild one of these houses, and they should get the priority instead of forcing, say, Paul to leave. In theory. I don't know. It's a little bit wonky. I don't think I like that. If that is exclusive to the mod pack, I don't really like that change. I prefer couples not to split up, but, oh well. Anyways, so we're still doing our thing over here. Our force is going around and kind of planting a bunch of trees. It's going to take a long time before this area is of any use to me, so I'm not really going to bother too much in developing, at least for the time being. So let the forester do his job, his or her job. Let's go ahead and extend the road out this way as well. And is there anything else that we really want to be adding in here right now? We could start working toward some trade. Now that wouldn't be so bad. I don't have any real resources to trade at the moment, so I'm not sure it's really worth my time, but we could. I think we're going to go ahead and hold off on that, simply because I don't think it needs to be a top priority. I am going to unpause this so we can clear out some of these trees, finally. And let's go ahead and unpause one of these woodcutters. I might want to move the woodcutter a little bit closer to the main center of town rather than over here. So we'll go ahead and start clearing those areas out. Now, Prentony has just become an adult. So let's see, where is Prentony? He's working as a laborer. Now, students, here's the weird thing to me. Students don't have to be graduate to laborers in order to get their own house. You know, once you got like a 16, 17-year-old student, they can move out and start having kids. For whatever reason, they don't seem to do that on their own accord, though. Because of whatever this change is, whatever it is. We got a 16-year-old student right here, Juling. And Juling, if I built a house, doesn't seem interested in moving out and taking up that house. Paul will take it instead. It's a little bizarre. But where's Prentony? We have Vassity, who's a 17-year-old student, female. Prentony, where are you? Am I missing something obvious here? Okay, maybe you're over here. No. Huh. Who the heck is Prentony? Well, whatever. Rebuild this house now, and let's see if Prentony takes precedence. Vassity also just became an adult, so yeah, let's see if they take precedence and start up a new family before Paul gets his greedy little mitts on it. What are we building so much of right now? What requires 10? Oh. No. It's not the road. Why do we need 10 builders right now for one house? Did I dismantle something else that I'm not aware of? I mean, I know... Oh, right. Never mind. It's because we cleared this area out. Let's pause the market. Let's pause the woodcutter. Actually, let's just go ahead and let the woodcutter do its thing. It's fine. Build up the house. Let's see what happens. Because if this works, then we can continue playing in New Cardiff. We're not going to have any problems. It's a little bit wonky, but we'll be okay. If this does not work, well, then I'm going to go ahead and say that the game's kind of broken. So this is going to be a good moment of truth for both of us, I think. You and I. Still having a little bit of trouble on food. It's a little interesting to me that we had thousands of food earlier, and now we're down to, like, nothing. Probably in part because children require so much freaking food. Alright. So with this woodcutter, we're going to go ahead and turn off work. We already have one woodcutter assigned. He'll just reposition over here. And that should be fine. Alright, let's construct this house up. What do we got? Come on. What do we got? No? Builders don't want to come over here and be useful to me? There we go. I'm just waiting with bated breath. I need to know that this works. This determines everything. Okay. There they are. Prentony and Vassity did take over. They're 19 years old at this point, which seems a little bit old to me, but alright. So they've just taken over. They've got their own new family unit. Paul didn't get it. So as long as we keep expanding methodically like this and we don't overexpand and ruin our adult-to-housing ratio, we should be okay. Little weird. But at least I feel like we're okay. We're not gonna die. Alright, you know what? I'm actually gonna go ahead and dismantle this, because what I would like to do, if I can get rid of this woodcutter, is just replace this area with an herbalist. This is already an old forest, right? Lots of grown-up trees. Let's get the herbs. And the good thing about herbs is not only do they help with health, if we ever need it, the herbalist is the one who applies the medicine, but we can also trade herbs pretty easily when we build a trader, if we so desire. And that would work out pretty well for us, I think. Now, one thing that's cool about trade in the Colonial Charter mod pack, if we look over trade buildings, there we go. So we have our basic trading post, which, if you're familiar with Banished, this is old news to you. Still works, still gets a trader, comes down the river every once in a while. Maybe you can sell something cool, right? But you also have the Old Town Trading Post, which is just a little bit smaller. As far as I'm aware, it basically does the exact same sort of thing. Then you have specific types of traders who only bring certain kinds of goods. So a farm supplier, if you want to have seeds, livestock, and stuff like that. Industry suppliers, dry goods suppliers, food suppliers, chartered company, which just, I actually don't really remember what this does. Let's see. A chartered company is willing to trade for many items. They will pack and exchange goods in return for useful refined items. These items are ordered on demand and incur an 8% tax increase. So it's an on-demand trader for pretty much anything. The bootlegger, the smuggler's dock, the native trader if we had natives. But mostly I'm really interested in the farm supplier, which is a really good way of trying to force yourself to get more seeds and livestock, because those are so incredibly valuable. I mean, if we could get a pasture full of sheep, we'd be doing really well as far as clothing and so on. We wouldn't have to rely so much on the leather. So yeah, some cool stuff involved in that. Now, of course, we need lumber, which is a resource we haven't touched yet, and we probably should start looking into that. But first, I think... Well, let me think. Do we want to continue doing what we have been doing, or do we want to start adding in new features from the Colonial Charter mod pack? The thing is, if I start building too much right now, we don't have a lot of population. It's going to take a long time for our kids to grow up. So I'm a little bit worried about going into the Colonial Charter mod pack stuff a little bit too aggressively right now and finding out, well, this backfired horribly. Could happen. Let's see, let's just take this time to go over some of the other features that are in the Colonial Charter mod pack. So besides the fact that we have tons of extra bridges, roads, and stuff, let's take a look at the storage. So you already saw we have some different stockpiles, including ones that are specified to a specific type of resource, which is pretty convenient. So for example, if I wanted to go to this Forester's Lodge, and instead of having a multi-purpose stockpile, I could set up just one only for wood, and that would be perfectly fine. Pretty useful feature there. You've already seen a lot of the trade stuff. We have different market buildings. Some of them are specific to, they basically function like a regular market, but they only work for certain goods. I'm not too sure why you would want this. I don't see the exact advantage. Maybe the food stall, in order to try and get all your farming food into one localized area, but it's kind of okay. You got vegetable stalls, grain stalls, protein stalls, and so on. Cellars are kind of useful. They're almost like barns, but they're very small, and they don't take up a lot of space. They don't fill up very well either, but they don't take up a lot of space. So you can put like a little cellar, a little one-tile cellar here. Boom. And it's a very, very tiny storage area. Pretty useful to put next to your buildings as they are working on things. Right, let's suppose you have a fuel refinery and you want to put a fuel cellar right next to it, rather than build a whole barn. Okay, good, there's the option. Sweet. We also have some specialized warehouses. Glass, ores, clay, bricks, and so on. I don't really use these too much, but they're certainly there if you want them. And they kind of look, I don't know, kind of squarish. They look kind of cool. You got some unique textures on a lot of this stuff. Let's see, we also have storage lean-to. Now, I think... Well, hang on. I'm trying to remember how these work. Edibles lean-to... It's just a small... It's just a small little thing. It doesn't really do too much. Storage barn, you already seen. Small barn, old barn. A magazine. Which, if you've ever been to a place like, I don't know, let's say Colonial Williamsburg in Virginia, you might recognize something like this. It's basically a very large storage area. Holds all sorts of useful stuff. Dry goods storage. A grain silo. Root cellars. Meat lockers. Bank barn. Resource depots. Distribution barn. Now this one's interesting. A distribution barn which can have workers assigned who will empty it into the nearest regular storage locations. Functions as a normal storage barn if no workers are present. Huh. Assign who will empty to the nearest regular storage locations. So you place something like this in, let's say, your farms, and then you'll have people assigned to it who will then go and send it to wherever the other, I don't know, basic barns are. Where's the advantages to building that as opposed to a barn in a market radius? I guess. No, I guess I can see some use for that, but not right now, certainly. We will want to consider getting something like a town hall relatively early on. And that's because of some restrictions that are currently in the game as far as amount of stored materials and stuff like that. You can see here, this is a very large, encompassing, kind of generic resource. This includes your fuel, this includes your building materials, and all sorts of other stuff. And just looking at this number alone, doesn't really tell you what resources you have available. So it's a little on the confusing side. Now, in theory, this is actually getting corrected in the next major update to the Colonial Charter mod pack, based on some new features that were just added into Banished not too long ago. It looks like the developer has finally added in the ability to add in new tags, new types of resources, so that you'll be able to categorize, separate things a little bit, so fuel and building materials won't be in the same category. The reason that's really frustrating is because it was almost impossible to keep track of whether you were overproducing or underproducing, and also it really was difficult to manage your limits to resources. So that supposedly is going to get fixed. It's still kind of in beta right now, but when that goes live, you better believe I'm going to grab something like that. But the reason I'm talking about it is because prior to all of that, you know, prior to what's going to be Colonial Charter 1.75, I think, the Town Hall was probably the best way to manage your resources. You would look at that, you take inventory, you could look through a list of all the itemized items that you have, and that was how you're going to check whether or not you were overproducing or not. That may not be as necessary, but at some point we certainly could consider that. We have all manner of different chapels and stuff that have been added into the game, right? So here's something here. Where's the basic one? Seafarer's Shrine. That's kind of cool. Here's a small chapel, and I think this is basically the vanilla church. But a big honkin' chapel like that's pretty cool. What about the old church? Now this looks awesome, I think. Look at that! It's beautiful! Then you got a central church, which is a little bit bigger. Looks kind of classic, very colonial. Gotta love that. A few different cemeteries and stuff like that. An abbey, which is kind of nice. An abbey houses monks to gather berries and herbs and brew ale. The monks are resourceful and make their products from local ingredients, requiring no assistance or product deliveries. That's pretty cool. A good way to produce some beer that you can sell in a local tavern. We've also got the hospital here and the city hospital, which looks a little bit different. Kind of cool, like the textures on that one. Apothecary, that's something new. Pretty cool. And then there's a whole bunch of different ways of refining resources and stuff. I'm not going to talk about that this entire video. Mostly I've been sort of sitting back and trying to gather up some resources, let people become more adults. We have Brita, who is a new laborer. So let's go ahead and unpause this. And we need to keep gathering up resources like wood and so on, because we're starting to run a little on the low side. And how's the trees looking over here? They're starting to make a little bit of headway. It's taken a while, but we're getting there. I suppose one thing we could do, since we have so many extra laborers, is we actually could assign a couple of extra foresters just to this one for now, and just kind of help plant things a little bit faster. Brett has become an adult and is now a laborer. Well, good. Maybe we can start up a new family unit over here. I know that I've been just talking about this stuff instead of, you know, showing off gameplay for pretty much this entire video. And maybe you guys won't find that incredibly entertaining, so let's just go ahead and get this wooden house done, and then I'm going to skip forward a little bit until we get some more people, because right now all we're doing is waiting for population growth. So let's skip forward until we have a little bit more population to work with. Actually, one thing we can add in, since we've been having so much trouble with food lately, is we could add in a water scavenger. Yeah. And this guy's going to harvest up oysters, mussels, crayfish, and seaweed and stuff. It's like a fishing dock, but it doesn't have a radius. I don't think it produces an absolute ton of food, but hey, we've already got a house here and stuff, which Chauncey has moved into, and appears his children left him. Well, that's fun. So maybe if we can place a new water scavenger and have some more food generation, more jobs, maybe Chauncey will bring his wife with him, and we can recalculate things. Okay, we have our water scavenger, and for this we need a dredger. So we're going to go ahead and assign someone here. And Chauncey is the builder. Now here's something that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Who's working the fishing dock? Alfredi, this fisherman right here. Now maybe he's a builder simply because we were just working on this building, so I'm going to give it a moment to try and recalculate this thing, but obviously I'd rather have my dredger and fisherman working, you know, living right here in the dock shanty. But it doesn't seem inclined to recalculate, so let's demolish the building, which gets Chauncey out of here, then reclaim it, and now Paul, it's doing the same thing again. So now Paul's abandoning his wife. Now I think part of it's because we still have too much housing if we do that. Which we already knew that, right? Chauncey was already from a split house, so now we've just changed which house is split. I would rather Luliette just left this one and moved in here. Actually, better point, Canissa is a forester. Canissa's a fully functional adult. I would rather Canissa moved in and had her own house. But for whatever reason, it's not prioritizing that. Well, we now have at least another adult. Maybe Shad is a male, and maybe, I mean, Shad sounds like a man's name. So maybe we can do that. Oops. And reclaim. And maybe Shad and... There we go. Now Shad and Canissa have moved in, and I assume they're going to re-evaluate their jobs at some point here. Wait, why do we have... Oh, crap, I accidentally demolished this thing. Wow. These people are homeless. And soon to die. Let's fix that, please. Thank you. What the heck? So I've still got some homeless people here. Apparently, a couple people moved out and then Paul stole their house. This Paul guy, I swear, he's proven nothing but trouble. Reclaim. There we go. Now they're back where they belong. How the heck did all three of those family members get stuck on here at the wrong time? I don't really know, but alright, now we have a dredger and a fisherman. It's recalculated appropriately. Paul, stay there. For the love of God, Paul. You're going to earn quite a name for yourself in this playthrough, aren't you? Let's go ahead and increase our tool limit up to, whoa, not 230, 30. And our tailor limit up to 30 as well. There we go, make use of all the resources, and then continue as usual. Wait, we actually did say that we wanted to build a herbalist, didn't we? Yeah, we did. Hang on, let's go to health and build a herbalist right meow. Yeah? Yeah. And that way we can collect herbs. We can heal people because our health is starting to go down a little bit. And if we have an excess of herbs, we'll be able to sell it to local traders for a pretty decent trade value considering how easy they are to stockpile. And they are in an old forest, so we don't have to wait for this thing to grow. Yeah, that sounds about right. Perfect. If you're not familiar in Banished, one thing you can do is click on a resource production or refining building, whatever it's going to be, and you actually can see exactly what they've been producing over the last season. So, for example, we know that this water scavenger has been producing 108 oysters, some mussels, crayfish, seaweed, even pearls, which I imagine are either good for refining into jewelry or maybe just selling to a trader straight up. This dock right here has been producing several hundred fish for one person. 900 fish for one person? That's actually really, really solid. In fact, we might want to consider adding a couple more of those in this little, I don't know, I guess kind of a little bay that we've got going on here. I mean, it's pretty small. But yeah, some pretty useful ways of kind of keeping track of things. If you look here, lots of venison, lots of duck meat. But this is how much food we've been getting out of 3 workers, right? About 1,160 food in the last season from 3 workers as opposed to 900 from one person. This is one of the reasons I love the dock fisheries. They're so freaking efficient. Huh. Now this is interesting. I wonder if they've changed something here or if I'm just looking at the wrong icon. See this little guy right here? That looks like an herb to me. But herbs, at least I thought back in the vanilla game, were not able to grow in young forests. And this isn't even really much of a forest. So unless that's actually like some wild lettuce or some sort of other food, it sure looks like herbs do not get limited to the old forest anymore. I wonder if something changed on that front, or if that was deliberate, or if I am misreading that. That seems to be happening a lot lately. I only need 1 herbalist. You never need to have 2, in my opinion. 1 can usually get plenty. And let's increase our herb limit to like 500. Just always work, get more herbs. We can trade them away if we have too many. Good. Alright, you know what? Since we're going to be doing that, let's go ahead and also get ourselves our first trader. Now, for trade, I am going to build the basic building for now, because I don't have the lumber and stuff that I'm going to require in order to build the specialized trading buildings. So let's build, do you want an old town or a regular trading post? I mean, I love the look of the regular trading posts. I think they're fantastic. We could put one like right here. It'd be great. Alternatively, though, these old town ones are bit smaller, but nah, you know what? Let's place it right here. Yeah, that sounds about right to me. Now, one thing I'm actually pretty sure will work, but I'm a little concerned about, So the trader will follow the main river, and he'll just kind of work his way down here, and usually if there's a trading post along the way, he'll stop. I think he will still come into the lake and then go on his merry way after he's done. Let's make sure, though, if we end up finding that we don't have any traders coming through after a couple of years, that may be our problem. You know what's funny is I'm fully aware that some people are going to look at this video and they're going to be like, oh, you spent half of it just talking about the different features, not actually doing anything. First off, the game was running through like half of that, but the funny thing is, I'm still not even done. Like, look how much more stuff there is. So many different ways of refining things, distilleries and stuff. These themed sets, they open up in all these different little subcategories. Walls and building spheres, shoreline and stuff. You know, you can have different key buildings. You can have key barn. Hang on, let's see if I can find something a little bit better. What about like these walls and stuff that you can just kind of put along the shoreline if you want to build up like a proper, you know, wharf and such? I mean, that's pretty cool. And I haven't gotten into all the different themed sets, and there's these native items, and there's a fort and palisade and stuff like that. Ugh, so much stuff to look at in Colonial Charter. I mean, considering what's in the base game, like this seriously does like quintuple the size of the game. It's one of the reasons I like it so darn much. And I am really, really looking forward to them fixing the tags and the limits on these different items and being able to sort these into different categories, because to be honest, that was one negative thing about Colonial Charter, in my opinion, was the fact that these were not easily sortable, and everything was kind of getting stored and lumped under these very generic categories. Well, if that is in fact going to be fixed once this beta patch goes live, that is going to be huge, and I don't think I'll ever play this game without the Colonial Charter mod pack again, because it's just that freaking good. Oh boy. Well, anyway, so I'm trying not to make like half-an-hour videos and stuff, so I'm going to go ahead and end things up here. I know not a ton of progress, but I wanted to address the whole bug issue that we seemed to be getting there. We're going to go ahead and get a trader going. We've got a few other things coming along. Next video, I think what we're going to do is start working towards some Colonial Charter special resources. We're going to gather up some clay, some sand, and we're going to try making some lumber, so we'll be able to start unlocking special buildings and stuff and start progressing up the tech tree. So thank you all very much for watching. I do hope that you enjoyed. I will be doing this series 3 videos a week going forward, not daily, so just be aware of that. EU4 is starting up again. But 3 videos a week, hope that's enough for you. If there's anything in particular you want to see, then you gotta show me in the comments section, otherwise I can't know. Be sure to hit that like button if you did enjoy, subscribe if you are new, and I, as always, will see you guys next time.